Hi, hello. Welcome to another episode of Isaiah's Newsstand. It's your host, Isaiah Edwards. The date is June the 26th, 2024. Hopefully, this episode finds you well, in good spirits, and high hopes. As for me, I'm doing pretty good. Today was another good day. It was cloudy with a little bit of rain throughout, but overall, it was solid. Let's see here. Let me bounce back to the food corner first, and then we'll get into my day. We had the usual pasta bolognese, because I'll be using that elbow mac. It was really yummy, pretty classic, with the bolillo roll, the bagel, the salad, you know the deal. Let's see. Moving on to today. Like I said, work was solid. It was good. But we had like the peak of our 30 years pat on the back anniversary, whatever, where we were treated to some food. And y'all know I love some free food. I will say I didn't scam. I'm beginning to wonder if I'm losing my edge. Maybe I'm not gonna maybe scam anymore. I don't know. Maybe not. Blame it on the diet. I don't know. Whatever. But we just ate the one time today. They had steak or chicken. I will say steak was kind of like loose, but like it's fine. That's what I wanted picking. Usually that or the chicken's about the same grade, so it really kind of didn't matter. It was a toss up. They had some kind of I forget what it's called. It's escaping me, but like some kind of roughage. It's like cauliflower and I want to say it's succotash. That might be it. I forget what it's called, but it's like a medley of vegetables that you kind of can just put on a plate and eat them all. Like it's a zucchini or is it cucumber. I don't know. There's some peppers in that thing. It was all right. It was okay. Broccoli, I think. Oh, and I will say, after eating this plate, I think I could get into Brussels sprouts. I think I've been sleeping on Brussels sprouts a little bit too much. I think you steam those motherfuckers up, you fry them, especially I bet if I ate a fried Brussels sprout, I would really enjoy them. Let's see here. What else is on the plate though? There's mashed potatoes with no gravy. I guess you were supposed to use like the gravy from the meat, which I guess that's okay, but they had some kind of like red tomato type base sauce thing. I weirdly put that on the mashed potatoes and the rice that they had. Both were all right. They were okay. So overall, it was just food on a plate. I ate it. I'm not complaining about it. I also had my energy drink and my flaming hot Cheetos, and I at one point just poured the flaming hot Cheetos onto the plate because I just didn't care. That was just the life I was living at that point. So yeah, that was like my food corner. There you go. You get a little double up there. Let's see. There's really I do have something a little bit of a rant in my personal news. I haven't talked about this with too many people, but I finally got my first check from Facebook. Mark Zuckerberg finally paid me for yapping and posting just all the time. And I thought that was cute. It made me smile when I woke up at like 3 o'clock in the morning and saw that I got a deposit. And it's weird too because I've been what is it called? I forget what they call them. Professional. I've been in professional mode. There you go. That's what I wanted to say. Sure. Facebook professional, sure. I've been in that mode for over a year now, probably at least. But like for the longest time, they've been like, "Well, you posted way too much. Like, you posted too many things that went against our Facebook guidelines, and you're kind of like a Facebook outlaw. So we can't pay you, but you can be in this professional mode." And I'm like, "Oh, okay, that's nice." But I'm such a freak that I actually like it because it like allows me to track my analytics. Like, oh, people are fucking with me this week. Nice. Or they aren't fucking with me this week. Ouch. Like there'll be times where I see I'm on I look at my story where they post your story on Facebook and it'll show me almost every time they show me it's like, "Hey, your reach has decreased by like 7%." And I'm like, "Oh, thank you. That's so nice to know that. I guess I'll just jump off the balcony now." But no, I generally just like having a good time and just, making a couple of my friends laugh at a time. And every once in a while, it winds up being like a couple thousand or something. Apparently, Facebook will pay you for that. They want me. I can definitely tell. They always want to push me into doing videos and stuff. And I'm like, I'm not doing that for y'all. I'm not doing that for anybody. No, thank you. So yeah, I just don't, and I'm not attractive or anything like that. So I make a meager pittance out of that. But I just thought I would share that to somebody. Just a little W for your boy. So yeah, okay, enough personal news. I've been gushing over myself. Let's go ahead and stop navel gazing and get into some good shit, that real shit. But first off, let's do the startup. All right. Ooh. First story comes from CNN. Pro-Palestinian protest outside LA synagogue criticized as anti-Semitic after street fights with pro-Israel protesters. I will say I don't like any of the spin or slant that like any of these outlets have really put on this situation. I'm kind of just going to take this article and run with it. But a pro-Palestinian protest held outside a Los Angeles synagogue devolved into chaotic street violence with pro-Israel counter-protesters on Sunday, in an incident that several officials, including President Joe Biden, criticized as anti-Semitic. The Los Angeles department said it responded to two protests Sunday in predominantly Jewish neighborhood of Pico Robertson, just south of Beverly Hills. Videos taken at the scene show police pushing pro-Palestinian protesters away from the entrance of Addis Torah Temple, an Orthodox synagogue. Of course, the chants of free Palestine, and then from the river to the sea, and long live Intifada could be heard, which, of course, people of the Jewish community, Zionists especially, go, "Oh, you're doing a dog whistle." Da 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 da. We've gotten into this conversation before. I really don't want to do the whole side thing about how I feel about that. You should just know by now. Anyway, and you should just tell by how I'm talking. I hate when I get into conversations with people and they think I'm like, "Oh, what do you must love Zionists." I'm like, what are you talking about? Because I just used the term. I feel like was my tone wrong? Anyway, I'm getting in the weeds again. But let's see here. Officers arrested a person with a spiked flag. Apparently that is an illegal thing, which I do get because, if things get crazy or heated, the spiked version of the flag, I've seen some scenes, I've seen some pictures. But yeah, that's not that was being used. It was just there and they're like, "Oh, we're going to arrest you for that." Let's see here. The person was issued a citation for possessing a prohibited item during a protest and released from custody. Let's see here. At a Monday news conference, Los Angeles Police Department interim chief Dominic Choi said detectives are investigating all acts of violence, saying more or less it's okay to protest peacefully, but violence will not be tolerated. Let's see here. Where did I want to pull from? Now, a lot of people were saying hey, people were standing in front of the synagogue. They weren't letting people in. Then that escalated when people tried to move them aside, and thus violence just kind of begat more violence. Let's see here. But I think it's important to talk about why people were protesting the synagogue specifically, because it's important, especially the Addis Torah synagogue. The protest stemmed from an Israel real estate event on Sunday at the Addis Torah synagogue, according to the synagogue's security director and social media posts from the organizers. The event at the synagogue was promoted by a firm called My Home in Israel Real Estate, a group that has helped to facilitate marketing events for potential property sales in Israel and the West Bank to Jewish Americans. CNN has reached out to the group for comment. In response, pro-Palestinian groups announced plans to protest the event in a Friday Instagram post from a Palestinian youth movement, an LA-based chapter of the group. "Our land is not for sale," the post said. "Stand against settler expansion at Sunday's real estate event selling homes to build Anglo neighborhoods in Palestine." The Post then listed the synagogue's Los Angeles address. So this wasn't for nothing. This wasn't like, oh, we're just going to protest and get in the way of people trying to like have a religious experience or anything like that. Like, no, inside here, people were auctioning off land that is not theirs to auction off. Like, that should appall you. That should upset the fuck out of you that that's just a thing that's happening. And essentially it's like, well, you know, this should just be totally allowed and fine to happen. Like, and especially just be protected in a synagogue. Like, no, dude. Like, so in my mind, up until this point, there's nothing violent about that. There's nothing anti-Semitic about that. And then there was counter protesters who were, what in my mind, I'm going to call them what they are, Zionists. They're going to come up and just fucking punch and push and beat up on people. But the way that this is portrayed is that, oh, the people who are pro-Palestinian protesters are anti-Semitic and violent. That is more or less the takeaway from most of the articles, most of the media I've listened to. I remember when I first heard anything about the story when I was just listening via podcast, was from Start Here. That was more or less how it was portrayed. And they did it in a very short segue into what I'm going to be segueing eventually to with Jamal Bowman. But yeah, I mean, this is a very unfortunate situation, but not for, in my mind, how the media is portraying it. And I know Joe Biden is like, oh, this is anti-Semitic, and Gavin Newsom more or less echo the same sentiments, but it's like, you're not talking about any of the shit going on in these synagogues. You're not talking about any of the things that these, these Zionist protesters are doing, these counter-protesters. And that bothers me. So, I figured I'd squawk about it and say my 2 cents. Y'all know I don't say it too eloquently, but... And kind of going back up to, like, once again, the Free Palestine stuff and all that. It's like, you could come at me for that and be like, oh, you don't know, you're being ignorant. But it's like, no, I do know what it means. I do know where the shit stems from. And you have to understand that this shit changes. And people are talking about freeing themselves from fucking oppression. There's cause and effect to all of that shit. And it's crazy that people want to fucking ignore that. Wild to me. Anyway, but speaking of more fucked up shit, I'm going to bounce from one thing to another thing to another thing. Just a quick aside, even though this definitely deserves more time. Elizabeth Wolf, 42, reportedly questioned a mother at the pool with 2 children where she was from and if the kids were hers before she attempted to grab a 6-year-old child, police said. While the mother was helping her 6-year-old, Wolf grabbed a 3-year-old child and forced her underwater, police said. So, I mean, this is very akin to, like, the moment I kind of covered last year where a man tried to kill a woman and then winds up killing a child. You know what I mean? It's just, and I get it. Like, anti-Semitism isn't at an all-time high. Islamophobia is at an all-time high. But the coverage of anti-Semitism right now is, like, more of what you hear in the mainstream media. And it should just be simply balanced all the time. You should be covering both of these things. So that does kind of bother me to see, but I mean, I don't know. Maybe that's just me and my bias and slant. I don't know. Let's see here. Just for an actual source, if you wanted to like read the article, because I kind of want to keep it moving. From The Independent, Texas woman accused of trying to drown 3-year-old Palestinian American girl in swimming pool. But yeah, she has been arrested, and hopefully I'll keep you posted on more details from that, because goddamn, and I'm so glad that those kids are okay. Like, obviously that's traumatizing as hell, but like, that broke my heart last year, covering that shit, with that boy dying, man. I know I should remember these names, but fucking hell. All right, let's get to Jamal Bowman. A figure we haven't covered, and now he is like out of the scene, I guess. But let's see here. From NBC News, Representative Jamal Bowman, a vocal Israel critic and squad member, loses primary. So this is like a big deal, and like I was initially going to cover it the other day, and I was like, damn, there's like way too much flood news. And then I just said, fuck it, we'll just wait to see what the outcome is. And womp womp, he lost. So we're just covering that now. Progressive Representative Jamal Bowman, Democrat from New York, suffered a primary defeat Tuesday to a moderate challenger who was backed by pro-Israel groups. NBC News projected, following a bitter and expensive race that exposed the party's divisions over the war in Gaza. So, spoilers, yes, he won. Latimer won. Won. The race between Bowman and Westchester County Executive George Latimer in New York's 16th District drew more ad spending. $25 million, according to the ad tracking ad impact than any other House primary in history. Nearly $15 million of that spending came from the United Democracy Project, a super PAC linked to American Israel Public Affairs Committee, or APAC, a powerful pro-Israel lobby, which backed Latimer. They backed him to the hilt. And essentially the way that AIPAC was looking at this, I think they really wanted to get Rashida, was it Tlaib? Like, that was definitely a main one. They really wanted to pick off anyone who was more or less anti-Israel. Or it really isn't even so much anti-Israel as much as it's like, because let's look at it. Most politicians, if not like 99% of the motherfuckers, are all pro-Israel. To the hilt, they all find a way to back these motherfuckers. I remember getting mad at AOC for being like, I can't say anything like bad about them, so like I just didn't vote for this thing. It's like, girl, just cast the goddamn ballot, bro. Like, why are you being weird about this? But I get it, especially looking at the situation now. There's a lot of pressure on you when you go against the grain, and it's our greatest ally ever, Israel, the most moral freedom fighters of the world, apparently. But Bowman was ardent. I don't want to say ardently against Israel, but he was just one of those things where he was very quick to say, hey, there should be a ceasefire here. Like, yes, I understand that October 7th happened. Like, but at the end of the day, you can't tell me that blowing up these people that you're occupying is going to do any good and fix anything. You know, that's not defense. That's just genocide. And he called it very plainly. And that just put a big target on his back. And like I said, pretty much anyone in the squad, you could say, hey, that they have a target on their back. But he was vulnerable. Something I didn't really put together until this kind of came up. Let's see here. Apparently, yeah, here we go. Last fall, Bowman pleaded guilty to falsely pulling a fire alarm in a House building in the middle of a vote on a GOP bill to avert a government shutdown. Bowman claimed it was an accident, but Republicans accused him of trying to interrupt official business of the House, and voters repeatedly quizzed him about the fire alarm incident on the campaign trail. It's very weird because, like, this guy was like a principal, like, of a school, you know, like, before he, you know, gets into politics. And it's like, what do you mean you didn't know what you were reaching for? It was like a frenzied accident because you were running late for a vote that you really had to get to. It sounds like you knew exactly what the fuck you were doing, bro. So that's definitely egg on his face for sure. But at the end of the day, I respect this man's politics. I definitely wanted to see him win and take it because, I mean, you're literally going up against money. And it's crazy because he called that shit out, and, like, AIPAC's response is like, you're being anti-Semitic, what are you doing? And it's like, because he mentioned that y'all are the money in this conversation, like, you literally put the money on the table. Everyone sees it. Like, that's the thing that's really crazy about this shit. All these super PACs, they've been in motion. Whether you're on the right or the left of politics, there is a big money organization backing you. And it's crazy that these guys were so adamant, like this group was so adamant about it, that like, we are going to promote this old fucking milquetoast centrist guy in Latimer. And it's crazy because I heard some clips from like some of these ads, and like the way that you hear these ads tell it, this guy is just as progressive as Bowman. It's just, he just doesn't say crazy things about Israel. And it's like, no, dude, this is a centrist old fuddy-duddy dude. He's not trying to do any kind of problems, and he's flush with fucking AIPAC money. You know what I mean? So he knows where his butter is bred. And really, let's be real. It's not like this Latimer guy's the only guy. There's plenty of guys, once again, on the right and the left that are backed by AIPAC money. So, you know, it just is what it is. It goes to show the power of lobbying for sure. Really big example of that. But yeah, overall, it's unfortunate. I you know, hate to see any member of the squad, you know, get knocked off because it's just one less progressive member. You know, I might not agree with politicians in general, and I can see it whether you're Bernie Sanders or not. Like, that you're still not doing enough at the end of the day. I know. But like, once again, I'm always going to play team sports, and I'm going to hope that the most quote unquote blue or liberal or progressive, whatever word you want to use, is going to be the person in the seat. You know, that's what I'm rooting for here. So this is a bummer, but, you know, we're going to move and get on to the next thing. Let's see here. We're gonna go to Kenya. A bit of an update there. Sadly, it is bad and it's bloody. From BBC. Kenya's president withdraws tax plan after deadly protest. Kenya's President William Ruto says he will withdraw a finance bill containing controversial tax hikes after deadly protests which saw Parliament set ablaze on Tuesday. In an address to the nation, he said it was clear that Kenyans want nothing to do with the bill. Like, dude, yeah, you knew that. You knew that even before they fucking got to the fucking government buildings or whatever and was fucking with that shit. You knew what was going to happen here, and it was like, oh man, that's crazy that we had to do this shit. It's crazy that 22 people had to fucking die. But let's see, at least 22 people were killed in Tuesday's protests, according to the state-funded Kenya National Commission on Human Rights, or KNHRC. Mr. Ruto said he would now enter into dialogue with the young people who are at the forefront of the biggest protest to hit the country since he was elected in 2022. Last where we had left this off, they were like knocking off parts of it, but essentially people like who were protesting like that's not enough. This whole bill has to go. And it's crazy because like kind of the thing that kind of happens is like the DNA of like most protests is like obviously the goal of it is like we are here, we are going to be out here until we get what we want. But like you give them what they want and it's like shit, that fucking worked, good, awesome. But then you also realize too like that's not enough, we can just get more. So now the conversation has kind of escalated to we want William Ruto to go. Like, we don't want him. And it was a close race. I think he won like 50.5 to 48.8 in his last election to his rival. So, I mean, maybe that's something that happens down the line. But, I mean, at the same time, I kind of, my speculation would be that Ruto isn't going to give up power. Most of the time, that's just not how this goes. But I would say that I wouldn't have expected them to completely peel back the tax break shit. So that was surprising. So, who knows? But once again, I am definitely sad to see the loss of life here. And to some extent, I do have to say that it is a cause and effect thing. Like, I know that, once again, just talking about my bias, like, if this is a January 6th thing, I'm like, oh, that's, da-da-da-da, you should have known better. But at the same time, it is the same kind of, I feel like, instincts of, like, we want this change to happen so bad, and we're going to take it to our government buildings. And then they get in those government buildings, and it's like the dog catching the car. And I get it. It's that youth and revolt kind of energy. You know what I mean? I think the purpose is just. I think it's right, but at the end of the day, that is why I do try to push for more peaceful protests. You know what I mean? Because at least you can always have that. You always have that historical linchpin of like, look, we weren't the ones who did the shit. There's no reason for this to have happened, and it happened. Up until this point, that like you could say that in this conversation, but I feel like once again when we're talking about spin and when you're talking about in the counter of this conversation, it's like, well, why did they do that? Like, why would you go and break into a government building? What were they going to do once they did that? Were they going to fuck up people? Like, who knows? Not to justify once again what the Kenyan police did or whatever. That's fucked up. At the end of the day, you should never be using lethal force like that. That should be done to a minimum. But once again, talking cause and effect here, I really can't get past that. You feel me? So, and I once again, I never want to advocate violence. I don't think that's the right way. I think that's always going to have a bad outcome. And you're always going to look back and say, God damn, I wish we could have done that differently. At least that's what I think. I'm sure that's something that I can debate with and get into the weeds with plenty of people. It's hard. It's hard out here, y'all. Anyway, let's move on to some lighter news. I'm going to finally put a cap on this. I feel like we've kind of gotten a little long. But hopefully y'all like to hear me yap. Hopefully y'all don't mind listening to me whine. If so, you're probably not already listening. You're probably already been gone. But whatever. Anyway, let me do my last break, and we'll go ahead and close this out. All right. From ABC News. President Biden pardons veterans convicted under a regulation used to keep LGBTQ members from serving. Okay. Joe Biden trying to serve some cunt. President Joe Biden, announced Wednesday that he has announced Wednesday that he has pardoned U.S. veterans who were convicted by the military under a regulation that allowed people to be kicked out for being gay. The White House said in a statement announcing the pardons that the decision will impact thousands of veterans, though officials declined to give a specific number. Also, in terms of are they going to contact them to even let them know? They're like, we got a plan. We're working on a plan. So that's a loose thing. And then there's another thing that I want to add. But I do want to add that this is a good thing. Just like when we're talking about the pardons for marijuana. Like, this is potentially going to be something that's going to give you benefits, which is good. And in terms of active a service member, like we're talking like service benefits, you know what I mean? So that's relevant. Gives you a chance to get back at that. But let me get to my gripes. But veterans will not automatically have their convictions wiped. They have to apply and go through a military approval process. Once they apply for that certificate of pardon, they can use that certificate of pardon to apply to have their discharge characterization changed with the relevant military branch. And that for many of them should unlock down the road access to critical benefits, a senior administration official said on a call with reporters Tuesday. So that's kind of dog shit loose to me. I don't like that. This should just be an automatic thing. It feels like a hoop to jump through. And if you're a veteran, you already fucking know that like the system is not for you. They've done chewed you up and spit you out, and they don't want anything to do with you anymore. So like the idea that you got to go through and let's say, hey, allow me to be gay, please, so I can get my fucking bennies, please. Like, the fact that that's just, once again, not a snap of the finger thing is crazy. But, like, am I surprised by this goddamn administration? No. Like, once again, it is the classic thing of, like, it's an election year, and, like, they're like, digging through their pockets and couch cushions for, like, change to give you. Like, hey, here's a little bit of a something. Here's something. You can take that. Like, pay no attention to the thing. Like, don't worry about the asylum stuff. So yeah, there's that. These are things that are happening. We'll go ahead and call it there. Okay, not long enough. All right, let's see. If you'd like to help out, support the effort, become a newsie today. I do have a Patreon, patreon.com/Isaiah News. Let's see, free ways to hit me up, isaiahnews1@gmail.com. And let's see here. I'm on all the socials, just go ahead and follow me there. Hopefully you're subscribed to the YouTube. Really helps out a lot there, trying to get more subscribers. But do the same on whatever platform you're listening to me on currently. That works, that helps. And I really just appreciate you listening. And hopefully I see you soon for some more good news. I love you. Bye-bye. Mwah.